Right, welcome back. I'm Ian Harris. This is I Really Should Know That, the show where adults catch up on the science they should know but never bothered to look up. Today, 10 weird things your brain does to you without ever asking permission. The first night in a hotel, half your brain stays awake and it knows why. You can't remember being a baby, and there's a physical reason. When a song's stuck in your head, there's a specific way to unstick it. One of them, sleep paralysis, is the most terrifying experience your brain can throw at you. We'll get to that. Why is the first night in a hotel always terrible sleep? Your brain has been silently doing something to you, and we only found out in 2016. Brown University ran the definitive study. They put people in sleep labs and watched their brains night after night. On the first night, the left hemisphere stayed measurably more awake than the right. The next nights, both halves slept normally. Your brain treats a new room as a potential threat, so half of it, usually the left side, runs in light sleep mode, watching the door, listening for sounds, ready to wake you fast. Dolphins and some birds do this their whole lives, unihemispheric sleep, because they have to keep swimming or watching for predators. You do it for one night, every time you sleep in a new bed. That's why hotels feel awful even when the bed is better than yours at home. Half of you was on guard duty. Speaking of weird sleep, there's a state where you wake up and cannot move. That's sleep paralysis. And here's what's actually happening. You wake up, you can't move. There's something in the room with you. That's sleep paralysis. The terror is real. The thing in the room is your brain misfiring. When you dream, your brain paralyzes your body on purpose. It's called REM atonia. Your brain's stem switches off motor commands so you don't physically act out your dreams. If that mechanism breaks, people sleepwalk. Sleep paralysis is the opposite problem. You wake up before the paralysis switches off. Your eyes work. Your awareness works. Nothing else does. The terrifying part, the presence in the room, the figure on your chest, is dream content leaking into waking perception. Your brain is still half running the threat detection system. It produces a plausible threat. You hallucinate one. Every culture has folklore about it. Incubi, succubi, the old hag. It's not paranormal. It's the boundary between sleep and wake, with the rules of both still loaded. Speaking of glitches you can't remember, you have no memory of being a baby. There's a specific reason. You spent 3 years alive before your earliest memory. 3 years of waking, eating, crying, learning to walk and talk. Where did it all go? It's called childhood amnesia. Almost nobody has reliable memories from before about age 3. Even your earliest memory might just be your brain reconstructing a photo your parents showed you. 2 reasons working together. First, your hippocampus, the part of the brain that files long-term memories, isn't fully built until around age 3. Memories formed before that don't have anywhere to go. Second, and this is wilder, your infant brain is making neurons so fast that new cells are constantly being added to the hippocampus. Recent research suggests this overwrites earlier connections. Your own brain growth is erasing the file system faster than the files can stabilize. 3 years of you gone because your brain was still being built around them. Speaking of involuntary stuff, that thing where you're about to fall asleep and you jolt awake, that has a name, and the leading theory is genuinely strange. You're falling asleep. Suddenly, you jerk awake, sometimes with a sensation of falling. That's called a hypnic jerk, and the leading explanation involves your evolutionary ape brain. About 70% of people experience hypnic jerks regularly. They're harmless. But why do they happen? The leading theory, as you fall asleep, your muscle tone relaxes rapidly. Your brain receives this rapid change as a signal. And one of the leading interpretations is that your brain misreads the loss of muscle tone as falling. So it does what brains have always done when something falls. It fires every muscle to catch itself. Your whole body twitches at once. Some researchers think it's a vestige from when our ancestors slept in trees. A sudden loss of muscle tone in a tree was a problem to solve quickly. The reflex stuck around even after we came down. Every time it happens, you're running ape software in a bed. Speaking of running ancient software, when you talk to someone with a strong accent for too long, you start copying it without meaning to. Why? If you spend an hour with someone who has a strong accent, yours starts to drift. You start picking up their cadence, their vowels. You can't help it. Why does your brain do this? It's called phonetic convergence. Your brain has a system specifically for mirroring the people you talk to. Same one that makes yawns contagious. When you listen to speech, your motor cortex activates the same muscles you'd use to make those sounds yourself. You're internally pronouncing every word someone says to you milliseconds before you reply. Spend long enough doing that, your speech production drifts toward what you've been simulating. Why? Bonding. Mirroring is how mammals signal we're on the same team. Babies do it. Couples in long relationships develop matched speech patterns. People in love walk in sync. So when you accidentally copy your Scottish co-worker's accent, you're not being weird, you're being a primate. Speaking of stuff your brain copies, when a song gets stuck in your head, there's a specific way to unstick it. The trick is doing what your brain wants. A song gets stuck in your head. It won't leave. Trying to ignore it makes it worse. Here's the actual neuroscience trick to unstick it. Earworms, yes, that's the real term, happen because of something called the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain has a quirk. Unfinished tasks keep cycling in working memory. They stay active until you complete them. If a song is stuck in your head, it usually isn't the whole song. It's a fragment, a chorus, a hook. Your brain has filed it as incomplete and keeps trying to finish it. The fix is counterintuitive. Listen to the whole song, all the way through, from start to finish. Your brain marks it as complete. The cycle ends. The earworm dies. The other fix that works in studies? Chew gum. The motor task of chewing seems to interfere with the inner singing circuitry. Slightly silly, genuinely effective. Speaking of compulsive loops, you check your phone with no notification, no reason, several times an hour. That's not a habit, that's chemistry. You just checked your phone. There was nothing on it. 5 minutes later, you'll do it again. That's not weakness. That's your dopamine system being hijacked. Dopamine isn't really the pleasure chemical. It's the anticipation chemical. It spikes when you might get a reward, not when you actually do. The strongest dopamine response in the brain comes from variable rewards, when you don't know if you'll get anything. Slot machines run on this. Your phone also runs on this. Sometimes you check and there's a message from someone you love. Sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes there's a like, a comment, a deal, an email. You can't predict which. Every check trains the same circuit slot machines train. Your brain learns checking the phone is high variance reward, so it keeps reaching for it. You're not addicted to your phone. You're addicted to not knowing. Speaking of things you do without realizing, you talk to yourself. Constantly, out loud sometimes, in your head always. Why? You're doing it right now, reading these words in your own voice. You talk to yourself constantly, out loud when you're alone, in your head always. Why does the brain even do this? Inner speech isn't a quirk. It might be how thinking actually works. Lev Vygotsky, Russian psychologist, 1930s, proposed that children first learn to speak out loud, then gradually internalize the speech to guide their own thinking. Modern brain scans confirm it. Inner speech activates the same language regions as actually talking, just slightly damped down. When you're solving a problem, planning your day, or rehearsing what you'll say to your boss, You're literally speaking to yourself in a sub-vocal whisper. People who lose the ability to do inner speech through stroke or injury often describe their thinking as slowed or strange. Inner speech might not be a side effect of language. Language might be the substrate of conscious thought. Talking to yourself is the closest thing the brain has to thinking. Speaking of weird involuntary moments, you've felt watched when no one was there. Almost everyone has. Here's what's actually happening. That feeling that someone is staring at you when no one is. Almost everyone has had it. Your brain has a dedicated system for this, and it's allowed to be wrong. Your brain has dedicated machinery for detecting eye contact. The superior temporal sulcus, a specific region, fires when you process direct gaze aimed at you. It's so important that infants prefer faces looking at them over faces looking away. The system is baked in. The trade-off, it's tuned for false positives over false negatives. In ancestral environments, missing a predator's stare was fatal. Mistakenly thinking you were being watched was cheap. So evolution biased the system towards seeing eyes when there aren't any. The feel-watched sensation is the same circuit firing on partial signals. Peripheral motion, a shadow, an unfamiliar shape, without enough information to confirm. Your brain says maybe and pushes a feeling. You're not psychic. You're paranoid by design. Last one. You've cried and felt better afterwards. Everyone has. Why does crying work? Honestly, we don't really know. A good cry makes you feel better. Everyone knows this. It's been true forever, across cultures, languages, centuries. And here's the most interesting bit. Science still doesn't fully know why it works. Humans are the only species that produces emotional tears. Animals cry to lubricate the eye or flush irritants. We do those too. And we have a third category that only fires when we're emotionally moved. Theories on why it works range across all of neuroscience. 1. Tears contain stress hormones and crying physically removes them, though the amounts are too small to matter much. Another, the parasympathetic nervous system activates during crying. The rest and digest mode, the opposite of fight or flight. Crying forces a calm down. The strongest theory now is social. Crying is a powerful signal to others. We feel better partly because we get care, and partly because the act of crying releases what we'd been holding in. We've been doing it forever. Science is still catching up, worth knowing. That's 10. Your brain has been quietly running every one of these on you while you've been watching this video. Series 6. Drop a comment with which you want. Senses you didn't know you had. Proprioception, interoception, your sense of time, the hidden sixth senses your brain runs without telling you, or why your body does that. Hiccups, blushing, butterflies, goosebumps, the runs when you're scared. All things your body does to you, all involuntary, all weird. I'm Ian Harris. Cheers.